I don't really believe in the paranormal. I think there was probably an explanation, but I was too young to know what it was. I'm going to tell the story as I remember it. My room wasn't very large, a typical square room, mostly taken up by a dresser, bookshelf/TV stand combo, and my twin-sized bed. The bed bisected the room, separating the entrance door from the sliding closet door. As I was young, I'd like to have the fan on. I had one of those long extendo chains for the light, so I could turn off my light and still enjoy the fan at nights. I was in my room messing around not long before bed. I've always been an active person, and in my childhood, I was never anywhere in the house without a trusty toy sword or toy sword stand-in at close hand. And tonight was no exception. I don't remember why I swung, because again, small room. But I swung my sword and it struck the long chain for the light. Anywho, whoever has accidentally whacked their chain knows what happened next. The chain goes flying into the air, wraps itself endlessly around the light fixture, and turns off the light. In an instant, I was plunged into darkness. Annoyed, I clambered onto my bed and began to tentatively reach up. I didn't want to stick my hand in the fan blade, but I needed to reach really close in order to begin untangling the chain. I froze when I heard a shuffling sound and then a groan. It sounded close by in my room with me. It sounded like the closet door was sliding open on its old track. I kept trying to reach up, but now the hair on my arm was standing on end. The groan of the door finally stopped, but what replaced it was a heavy, throaty breathing. I imagined it? Of course. I had to have, because what little boy doesn't have an overactive imagination? But all the same, I was terrified. I gave up trying to untangle the light chain and instead reached for the top of it, where the chain fed directly into the light fixture. The breathing was closer now, and my brain was happy to provide the louder sounds and the horrifying images of everything they belonged to creeping towards my bed. I found the chain, and I pulled. I know I pulled. I heard the click, but perhaps I just wanted to, because the light did not flood the room and banish away the darkness of my fears. I pulled again and again. Surely the chain was just too tightly wound to activate the light. Of course it was. I couldn't wait to find out. I dove off my bed and lunged for the door to my bedroom, flung it open and allowed the light from the hallway to spill into the room. I whirled around, toy sword still in hand, but there was nothing there. The gloom of my bedroom stared back at me. Bed, dresser, bookcase with my TV and Xbox perched atop, and no monsters. I re-entered my room and climbed onto the bed once more, reached up, and with the aid of the hall light pulled firmly on the base of the light string. With a loud click, the light turned on, and my bedroom returned to normal. I unwound the light chain from the light fixture and climbed off the bed, sunspots dancing in my eyes from looking at the light and feeling a little woozy from the past minute. But it was okay. It was all in my imagination. It was no monster. The light wasn't turning on because I was pulling it wrong. I could explain everything very easily. Except for why my closet door was open. This happened about 5 years ago. I had just started a new job at a bank that I don't wish to name. And my trainer was a really nice guy. We got on really well, and through whatever reason, the other person that was supposed to be joining me on the training, who'd also got the same job as me, didn't actually turn up. So it was just me and him. We got on really well. He was funny, charming, and seemed to really like me. He started touching me gently caressing my arms from time to time when I did something well, and I honestly enjoyed the attention. But I knew it was slightly inappropriate. Now, at my job, we have this messenger system that we use internally, and we'd always be chatting about non-related work stuff on there. There were times I was caught giggling in my cubicle and was worried that my manager would start asking questions or check my IT history, as they could do that. It wasn't before long that he asked me out, and I giddily accepted. It was only when we started having a romantic relationship did I realize how much of a creep he was. He was into some pretty hardcore BDSM stuff, something I have no interest in, and on the first date was very explicit on how he wanted to do these things on me. Yeah, not the best thing to say on a first date, as it was an instant turn-on. That, along with a whole load of other things, really started giving me bad vibes, especially when he asked if when I was younger, if I ever liked hurting animals, as when he'd always loved to take his grandfather's shotgun and try to shoot bunnies. He made a point to say, especially the baby ones, they're slower. Yeah, our day didn't last very long, and I faked that my crab wasn't very good, gave me a stomach upset, and got a taxi home. When I got back to the office the next day, I tried my best to cease all conversations with him, and made up some lame excuse about my manager tracking my internet activity and me needing to act more professionally. He wasn't very happy with this, and that's when the stalking started. He'd start following me to the bathroom to try and talk to me. He'd take his breaks at the same time as me, try to sit on the same table, and when I would run errands around town, he'd come out and try to talk to me on the way. I was getting very uncomfortable, and it was not pleasant at all. To cut a long story short, I ended up telling my manager everything, and the next day when I got to work, he wasn't there. Turns out I wasn't the only girl he tried this to, and they were fed up. He was fired, and I'm glad I never got to see him again. I hope I never have to again. This originally started with my psycho ex having a psycho family. We were young. He knew his family was psycho, which led him to moving out/running away from home to live with a friend, without telling his parents. So he packs up his stuff one night and leaves. I knew what he was doing and where he was going, which was not my house. I woke up the next day to his entire British family, mum, dad and grandmother, in my front yard, yelling at my house, telling me I was going to rot in hell where I belong, and that I'm a worthless, horrible and disgusting maggot of a girl. Eventually, my mum came out of the house and shooed them away and told them to get off our yard. We thought this was kind of a one-time thing. Obviously, because what the hell? Why would you do that to a 16-year-old? A few days later, I was with the boyfriend and some friends downtown hanging out. We see his mum's car coming towards us and he starts running away. So me and the other friends all just kind of split up and start quickly walking away down different little side streets. Somehow the mum pulls a U-turn and follows me. I call my mum and ask her if she can come and get me. Hey mum, Susan is following me. I'm on City Avenue and I'm scared. She keeps driving really fast behind me and then slowing down. And while I'm on the phone with my mum, I hear the car revving up so fast, and then she swerves across someone's driveway and almost runs me over. She starts yelling at me, screaming about what a terrible person I am, and I manage to kind of run away from her and get to somewhere that my mum can pick me up. After the car incident, My mum made me wear a disguise whenever I left the house. The family kept coming and yelling on the yard, and I had to get a restraining order against 3 adults as a 16-year-old. About a month later, we were staying over at the friend's house where the boyfriend lived. We woke up in the morning to a lot of chaos. His father was outside the window of his first-floor apartment, banging on the window, screaming, "I know you're in there." He then sees me through the window and starts calling me all kinds of colourful names and other really pleasant things. I duck into the bathroom to call the police, because A, this is a disturbance, and B, it's terrifying. And finally, I have a restraining order against this man, and he's breaking it. While I'm in the bathroom, my friends turn on some really loud music to drown out the man's yelling. The police finally come and get him to leave, basically. A lot more smaller drama happens over the few months, and my boyfriend goes to visit his cousin for a weekend, disappears for a week, and was actually staying with a girl, got her pregnant, didn't tell me, broke up with me, and then came back with no explanation why. I found out 10 months later that this guy has an entire baby. I'm over this guy by now, so all I can think of is, okay, that's just karma. A few years down the line, I hear from a bunch of people about some guy at a university 4 hours away that did a bunch of acid in the library and climbed on a desk and claimed to be a god and threw a bunch of chairs around. Even later down the road, I found out that this guy was my ex. My life is seriously a roller coaster. In the summer of 2012, I met my friend Tom at Dairy Queen for ice cream. He asked if his friend Ben could meet us there as well. Apparently, he had met Ben at the library where he was working at the time. I said, "Yeah, that's great, I love meeting new people." Ben comes with his guitar and starts playing beautifully. From this encounter, it seems like Ben is a really chill and down-to-earth guy. He then adds me on Facebook a few days later. And that's nothing out of the ordinary. And he starts making casual conversation. There are some strange things that arise though. When I met him, he had an accent that I couldn't put my finger on. He ended up telling me he was born and raised in the UK and was a musician there until he moved to the US at age 18. I thought, okay, he really doesn't sound like he's from there, but alright. Around this time, I started to date a guy called Kyle. Over the course of a few months, Ben is flirting with me a bit, and I try to make it obvious that I'm uninterested, and he seems to get the picture. At this point, the spring semester at college starts, and I find out Ben is in the same class as me, just at a different time. There's a class field trip to a museum where both classes are joined. I notice Ben and we make casual conversation. We go our own separate ways, and that's when things get weird. We were in a massive museum in New York City, yet I seemed to see Ben lurking everywhere I went. It really freaked me out, and by the time the trip was done, he messaged me going in pretty hard with the flirting all over again. I mentioned to him how I don't really like the way he's talking to me, but he still tried. I even ignored him at certain points. Why I didn't delete him at the time is beyond me, but I digress. I eventually just told my boyfriend and showed him the messages, and it gets even weirder. Kyle asked me what his name was. Then he saw his profile picture. He gasps and shouts, "Ben?" That's definitely not his name. I know the guy, he's called Steve. He went to our high school and he's insane. I'm in total shock right now because it just made everything so much creepier. Then Kyle tells me about how he tried to do the same thing to his ex-girlfriend. So basically, Steve contacted Kyle's ex-girlfriend while they were dating, fed her the same lies, flirted with her and stalked her. Apparently, Steve told Kyle's ex that his name was Peter. Kyle said that he nearly got into a fight with him, but Steve backed off and switched schools. Kyle asked if he could use my phone to message him, and at first I was reluctant, but Kyle showed me his yearbook and confirmed that literally everything was a lie. Honestly, I couldn't really believe Steve's whole backstory, but Did I really have a reason to call him out on it or question it? I didn't really care until it got eerie, and I didn't want to instigate further stalking. Anyway, Cal messages him from my account. "Hey Steve, it's Kyle, remember me?" Then that's where Steve gets hostile. He starts losing his mind and getting very aggressive, adamantly denying that he is Steve, but is Ben. Kyle sends him photos of him from the yearbook and tells him to leave me alone. Steve says that he's going to contact the police for harassment and whatnot, and by the end of these absurd accusations, he just blocks Kyle and I on social media altogether. Steve got found out for the second time by the same guy for the same thing. I'm not sure if Steve just hates or is obsessed with Kyle and wants to try and steal his girl again. But whatever the case, this guy is straight up crazy. Who lies about their identity and is that stupid to go for the same guy's new girlfriend? I'm still blocked to this day and hope to not meet you again, Steve.